Hello, hello, hello. As everyone is entering, I'm hoping to have a wonderful show with you guys tonight. These might actually be moved to a Saturday night. I realise Sunday nights aren't going as well as I was hoping. So, we've got a few things tonight. We have talk on climate change, what happened overseas, a few issues here. Let's talk about the media. Um, there's just a jam-packed night. Where is John Barilaro going? So yeah, this will be a very interesting night. So let's kick it off. So, I don't know how many of you got to see this. Um, so, the Nationals aren't agreeing to a bigger medium term emissions cut, David Littleproud says. The Nationals leader, David Littleproud, says that his party will not support legislating a more ambitious medium term emissions reduction over the coming parliamentary term because the big hand of government isn't necessary to drive um, to low emissions. Now, if he's correct and he's trying to lead the party, I essentially think that he's taken the role that Peter Dutton can't. My theory is this: Peter Dutton can't assert that much power. The Nationals actually kept every one of their seats. So this is a power move. When Peter Dutton says, we will look at it, David Littleproud goes, no, no, we're not. And I think that that's actually what's happened here. But it goes on. In the wake of the coalition's devastating loss to moderate Liberals, are now urging Peter Dutton to let the party room adopt a more ambitious position. See, now there's a clear and present split between the two. Because now what's happened is we see how it's all going to play out. You have Peter Dutton's side saying, yeah, maybe we should look at that. Maybe that's worth, looking into. And then you have David Littleproud's team going, no, we're not going to do that. We don't think it's necessary. And so this is now a big power play move. So either the Nationals supersede the Liberals or the Liberals put the Nationals in their place. Either which way, this is what it is. This is a power grab. Um, let me be clear, neither of these men are leadership material. David Littleproud had been, I think, pushed off from this role before. They had him there before, and he didn't do so well. Littleproud told The Guardian that the Australian policy set by Scott Morrison did not need to change. The Nationals support the target took to the election, but the target is just that. And Australians have proven the government creates the environment and the infrastructure around it, and they'll exceed that target. The big hand of government doesn't have to come in and legislate. Well, actually, they do, because when the carbon emissions trading scheme was put into place, we definitely seen a reduction. So the narrative doesn't fit the reality. And whatever narrative they're trying to push, I can truly say, without a doubt, it doesn't fit the reality. So what happens now? We're going to see one of two things happen. Either David Littleproud cowers, but like a small little man that he is, or you see Peter Dutton cower and see how big his power play was. Either way, one of these men has to bounce because you can't have this much of a vacuum. But don't let me stop there on the climate issue. There is another one. Um, so what ended up happening from that was the New South Wales was fined as a result. of an environmental issue. So as the Liberals are having a weird debate about which policy would be better for which part of the country, the Forestry Corporation in New South Wales fined for breaching post-bushfire logging conditions. So if we don't need a government entity to, I don't know, set policy, why does this part of it exist? That doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to you either. And I'm sure everyone can see right through that little schism of reality. South Coast residents and conservationists say a $15,000 fine for Forestry Corporation of New South Wales 2020's breach of the post-bushfire logging conditions does not go far enough. The Forestry Corporation found to have been logging hollow-bearing trees in the South Birman State Forest near Ulladulla, which are crucial for survival of native threatened wildlife after bushfires. See, now, this sort of doesn't stack up when you have David Littleproud saying, hey, no, government doesn't need to have a role in this stuff. Clearly it does. So I want it to stop. Their narrative needs to stop, that this isn't doing what they say that it does. I think this is going to be a major problem. They're going to keep running into stuff like this where you see government having to stop companies from being terrible, where you're going to have to, get them to not be a terrible part of our environmental issue. Environmental Protection Authority Executive Greg Sheehy said he was concerned better systems were not being put into place to ensure compliance. Where do you get better systems to ensure compliance on the environment? I don't know. I'd like to ask David Littleproud's office, how do you get better compliance in the environment if you don't think that the government needs to play this role? See, it kind of shoots you in the foot, where in the very same message that he has that, I can easily prove that you need a government policy around that. Doesn't look too good for Mr. Littleproud. Okay, so next I've got how many reporters are out of line still. So if you've noticed, the media pack is still rather rabid. And not just like a little bit out of control and they're just saying crazy things. No, they're literally out of control. And then they're misinforming the public as they're going about their normal jobs. Their job is to be non-objective. They're not. They're supposed to be not have any skin in the game. They're not supposed to be telling you which way to push you to vote or in which way they feel about somebody. They're not supposed to become the story. When you're a journalist, your idea is to not be the story. The story is meant to be about other things. What happens when that isn't met? I will show you exactly what happens. Okay, so hold on, where is it? Need to find it. So this is what happened with Rachel Baxter and Dean Andrews. They've been at each other. Well, actually, Rachel Baxter has been at coming after Dean Andrews since forever. As long as I've known the two. She's attacked him over COVID and a whole bunch of other things. So listen to this interaction.
The greatest respect. It is not for me to make announcements by answering your questions, fishing questions. That's all. What was the probative value of this? What turned in our state on this issue? There was gossip. You were motivated to ask me a question. You asked me the question. It's not for me to make announcements on behalf of colleagues, and therefore I did not. And if you want to write in tomorrow's column that that's not who I am, then do that. Like, it wouldn't be the first time. At the end of the day, I'm not going to make announcements for colleagues who, frankly, I think have earned the right to make their own announcements. Because the thing is this, you and I will often agree and then sometimes disagree, and we also always do it on a respectful basis, and that's very important. But this is not about you and me, Rachel. The greatest respect.
Okay.
It is
So
not
that's
for me.
quite clear what's happened there. Now, this isn't the only time this week something like that has happened. Check out, I think it is this one. So this wasn't the only interaction that was caught where journalists were purely out of line. There's no other way to put it. Their behaviour is now beyond reprehensible. But stay with me. I'm going to show you exactly how bad it got. Listen to the way that this is put to Anthony Albanese. Now, if you don't think that they're tipping their hat in a particular way, in a political leaning, I'm about to show you how they do it and how they make it about themselves. And they never apologise when they get stuff wrong. Check this out.
Investigation that's uncovered hundreds of cases over decades, including this decade, of children in out-of-home care around Australia being raped and abused, and the system not working. You were asked about this the other day. The National Children's
I haven't
Commissioner,
actually, but yeah.
Well, I was going to say your Attorney General has expressed concern, so presumably you might want to speak to her about that.
My Attorney General's a him,
sorry about
and
that.
I haven't been asked about it.
No, that's fine. I'm making a sexist assumption there.
So they don't even know who the Attorney General is. And this is what I mean. This is another moment where we had the reporters asking Dan Andrews about Rachel Baxter. Rachel Baxter asking rumoured questions and then put it to him in such a sharp way as if he needs to pander to them. Then you've got this little journalist being caught out that couldn't even frame the question properly. What kind of job are they trying to go for here? Because this is shambolic at best. At worst, it's disgraceful. I think it's definitely out of line. So there's two instances I can show you right from the jump that it hasn't gone well for the narrative that the media is running, that they're doing their jobs really well, and that Dan Andrews and Anthony Albanese, and they're going to just ask the questions like they do any other PM. Two instances in 1 week where they have shown that they cannot just ask a question without some narrative and a snipe at both leaders. And you have to remember, Dan Andrews has endured a lot with Rachel Baxter. She needs to back up and she needs to not be the story. She can ask a legitimate question. I'm happy for Rachel to do that. I'm happy for her to carry whatever narrative gets her through her day. But what I won't do is I won't have her making side swipes at Dan Andrews anymore. It's not right. So there's that story. But then I want to show you something that Dan Andrews did this week, which I think should happen statewide. Dan Andrews put out this tweet after making sure this is the very first state to do so. In our state, nobody has a right to spread racism, hate, or anti-Semitism ever. That's why last night I passed legislation to ban the Nazi symbol. Now that's the law. Let that sink in. This is the first state to legislate this. It's sad on so many levels that we have all these states, and this is the first one to go, no, we're not tolerating hate. But I mean, this is what we're up against. Dan Andrews does the work that leads the nation in a way to a whole new way of thinking about what we need, what needs doing. Okay, next we have our favourite story of the week. So we have Oh, hold on. I need to fix that. I'm always organized, and then when it comes down to this. So this week we got to find out who PR Guy is. So I'm going to take my time to share his problems. He's going to have a big one soon. This is a very evil Murdoch media moment that we're experiencing, and I think that that's a fair comment, and I think that that's what we are experiencing. So this also is why PR Guy exists. PR Guy was the guy that said everything that we wanted him to say, and no, it wasn't a Dean Andrews staffer. It had nothing to do with Dean Andrews. He had no media training, no nothing. But check out what he needs now. Because he was in such a big service to this nation and helped hold together against the media narrative, now he's come under fire and there's going to be legal problems with that. So help PR Guy fight justice. Now, this is going to be the moment that we're all going to have to say, he saved us from ourselves and every possible bad thing that could have happened here. Hi, I'm Jeremy. You may remember me from such Twitter hashtag specials as I Stand With Dan and I Can't Believe It's Not a Stuffer. Now, if you don't know why that's funny, Troy McClure in The Simpsons, which is the character that he uses, I know a lot of you are older and I don't know how many of you have caught The Simpsons. So The Simpsons has this, the character Troy McClure, and he always starts off with, you may remember me from, which is a very, very well-known thing. So he's only got 37,000. As you know, Avi Yemeni, Rebel News, have announced plans to sue me. I have an enormous legal battle ahead of me. As you now can confirm, I'm not a secret government operative or a shadow PR firm. I'm a regular Aussie guy with a passionate about journalism, social justice, and the ability for all to speak up safely. I need your help whatsoever your politics. This is a case, a reminder to us all. When we speak out, there can be chilling consequences. Now, keep in mind, there was someone that did do this and did sue someone over a tweet. So do remember, this has happened before. And as a result, they were going to lose a lot of money. It had something to do with a minister being compliant with rape and Nauru. And the offshore detention centres. So that really did happen. So as we're reading this, know that there have been other people to speak out as who they are. And this has happened. So when he's asking you for help, understand that isn't because he just wants your money. No. He's literally funding to fight Avi Yemeni now in the courts. Because you've got to remember, Avi Yemeni is going to have all the political capital possible. The Liberals are supporting him financially. So I need everyone to get on board if you can and if you have the funds to help support Jeremy now that he has been outed as PR Guy. I think that this thing will be big. Australia's media landscape is in trouble. I spoke out during the lockdowns, elections, because I believe that the injustice and the unfolding media coverage. Social media gives Australians a voice and allows us to have a say. I want to protect that voice. I hope I've been able to draw attention to the state of Australia's media landscape, and that fight will lead to conversations about media and how they can do better. To date, I've raised, now it's past this, but it's not enough. Legal representation in this case will cost significantly. I will not ask for your help if I had any other options. If you have hardships or have contributed, please do not contribute. The funds are 100% for legal representations and costs, and any excess funds will be raised or put to a charity for victims of domestic violence. I will keep you updated. That part's important. So he's just not doing what Avi does, standing in a puddle and then saying, look, I need a flood donation. No, this is for legitimate things. Avi is going to be heavily funded, and he's going to need something to counter that with. If you haven't seen it, Avi has shaken hands with many top Liberal people, and they were helping him along with the mainstream media to out PR guy. They were really, really unhappy that PR guy cut through the narrative and beat the bullshit. And that's exactly what happened. Okay, so I don't know how much this will be restricted the moment I do this. Gladys Stauffer. I don't know if you've actually seen this story. It is sad. At the same time, it's horrifying. So, I really don't want to say it like this, but it's come to my attention that all these conservative value people tend to have these sorts of people around them. Now, I don't want to say that they don't happen in all walks of life, because it does. This happens in many, many, many walks of life. But this particular crime is one that you can't overlook, right? And this sort of crime is common. Remember, they had George Pell, and they were determined to see him free. Remember that several staffers, one second. I will deal with that in a moment. I will be dealing with how to talk about stuff like this. There was a staffer to Craig Kelly that also had issues with women. There's just a lot. So to see a story like this, ex-staffer to Gladys Berejiklian pleads guilty to child offences. Former political staffer Gladys Berejiklian pleads guilty to multiple historical child sex offences, including aggravated indecent assault. The defendant will face a New South Wales District Court in July, where judgment will be handed down over the offences. Guilty pleas were entered over 6 offences in April this year, after the staffer was arrested in 2020 and subsequently jailed and granted bail. The suppression order over the entire case was lifted on Friday. However, the former staffer was underage at the time and can never be identified. Now, even if you take the 30,000 feet view and then go, oh no, one kid to another kid, it's still the way that this operates, and the secrecy behind it, and the fact that, you know, there's been real victims, like there was a rape that happened in one of the MP's staffers' rooms, and that was covered up, and now Brittany Higgins' case is being delayed. So this is like, Conservatives have an issue with sex, and they have an issue in dealing with how they deal with sex offences. And then you have Brian Houston, Scott Morrison's friend. So they're going to have to start dealing with these sorts of people, and we're going to have some clarity about that. So there's that. Any publication of the victims' names and the consent is also without consent is also a breach of orders. The defendant's lawyer had argued he might be identified through references to his former political role, but John Pickering questioned this hearing last week. There must be literally hundreds of people who have worked as a staffer for the Premier of New South Wales. The media generally can still report on matters of the Children's Court. Effectively, this is for the purpose of publication. Among the offences which a former staffer pleaded guilty to were aggravated indecency of a victim underneath the age of 16 and aggravated indecent assault of a victim underneath the age under the authority of the offender. Yeah. This is who they are, and they can't stop being this type of grubbiness. I don't want it to have anything to do with anyone that I would normally say pick where you work, but a lot of people can't do that. So if you find yourself in one of these positions, find a way to get help. It's a horrible, horrible situation. Okay, the week has shown us it was a terrible week. Wade versus Roe. So this was overturned. This was to make abortions harder to access in certain states in the United States. Now, a lot of people think that because we have a leftist government and a lot of things here are different. Not really. Our stance on abortion isn't as solid as what it should be. And it should be more fixated into law about how these issues are treated. I want to make sure that in Australia your rights are respected. And not just respected, that they're cared for. You matter just as much as anyone else. Now, this could mean your mother, your sister, your daughter, your wife, for any reason needs these services. Whether it be because there was a planned pregnancy and that planned pregnancy went wrong and it could risk her life. This may be her only way to save it. Whether it be because she was raped, whether it be because she's too poor to afford another kid. Who knows? It's not our business why someone needs a termination. It is never our business as to why a woman needs a termination. But if you've got that someone in your life that has ever experienced something like this, you would know. It's not just something where they wake up one morning and say, hey, I might just have an abortion today. No, they spend a long time agonizing over that decision. So for America to do this, it sets a bad precedent for our country too. And our laws are not as solid as they should be on this matter. And you got to think countries like Ireland did set into law to make it illegal as well. And then they had to reverse that in 2018 because of Savita Hapuanova's death. She was a woman that was 17 weeks pregnant, and it was a planned pregnancy, and it didn't go well. Let me show you exactly what that looks like. Hold on. So that's what we're up against. Canada has subsequently said, as a result of Wade v. Roe being overturned, that they will take up whatever women they can to help support them during this difficult, it's a pilgrimage that they need to make. I am struggling on this issue. It's quite emotional, and until you know someone who's been through it or been through it yourself, you don't have a clue, not even an iota of what this is like. There is a million things I want to come and be fair and out there with. And I want to say, that I'm objective about this, but I'm just not. I'm not going to lie to any of you and say, I can two sides this thing. I can't. Some women just need a service like that. And we should be making Australia safer and keeping those laws. So if you've ever felt alone in those moments, call your council person. I know I'm doing it, and I'm inviting lots of other people to call up their local MP to make a retrospective and the precedent that one day we're all going to need help, right? And there aren't things that we can tell everyone about. And they're deeply private and they're awful. And that's one of them deeply awful private things that you never want to have to deal with. But if you do need to deal with it, no government should stand in your way. Absolutely not. Anyway, moving on. So, I'm struggling to move on from that. So, the Holly Hughes was silly enough to make a comment this week about teachers. Now, I don't know if you heard this one, but it was a weird one for me too. So, hold on. That's a weird one. Here we go. I found it. Okay. Watch how this wins. Senator Holly Hughes blames Marxist teachers for the fact that so many young people rejected the Liberal Party. What? No. Let's just read what. Holly Hughes blames Marxist teachers for the fact that many young people rejected the Liberal Party at the election. Now, this is funny, but stupid all in the same
So my
thing.
question basically is, how are you going to address that situation? Because I think without them...
Okay, we got it. Youth vote.
So I think one of the issues, and again, Dave's, out on the ground as a lower house member, but we've got an education system that's basically run by Marxists.
Yes.
And so when kids are at school and they're being taught all this absolute left-wing rubbish, that's where they're leaving school and that's where they're landing. So when you've got a problem in your education system, it's going to take a generation.
Honey, it's not Marxist, it's humanist. And if you don't know what a humanist perspective is, it means just don't be a shitty person to the person next to you. It means don't burn into our nation to the point that climate change is going to ruin us all. It scares her. Look at how scared her little eyes are. She has the look of, I have 1,000-yard stare and I've seen things that you can only dream of. See, that's the thing. She's going to say that teachers are teaching Marxist stuff. Notice how she doesn't bring a reference to it. I will put that to her. Do you have a reference for Marxist teaching?
To fix it, Maybe their parents need to turn the internet off for, to 1 hour a day, that stop them allowing them to use the car and they get public transport.
Don't denigrate young people that way.
Okay, Chris.
Well,
Chris, we don't have interjections. You can ask a question. Finish. No,
well,
sorry.
I've got 3 kids and they just don't have any comprehension of the impact of what they want to talk about, and the understanding of, how to pay a mortgage, how you have to get a job, how you have to work, those sorts of things I think elude. Not everyone, but there is a generational issue.
So she brings up several things here. Let's address each of them. Apparently, teachers are all left wing. Way to go, teachers. But they're not. And that's honestly rubbish. Did you know that schools got free Murdoch papers? Yeah, that's a real thing. Enter any teacher staff room, they get papers for free. Because if they were really left wing, they wouldn't be handing the teachers Murdoch newspapers. That really happens. I've had inside sources of teachers telling me about how they can easily access the Daily Telegraph at their offices because it gets dropped off there. Yes. So, no, Holly Hughes, kids aren't just handed Marxist material. If anything, see, here's what gets even weirder. Children are also handed the opportunity to watch the news. If you watch any high school student, they say, I need to watch the news because the teacher said so. What main entity controls the news? See, you look a little bit silly when you go with that narrative, don't you, Holly Hughes? See, and then you went up with teachers aren't teaching kids how to pay a mortgage or anything. Actually, I don't know if you know this, but part of economics is Sally has so much money and she can only buy so many things. See, it looks a little bit strange when you don't actually know what they're learning at school. Now, I don't want to claim that you're ignorant, but hell, I've leaned all the way in here, so let's just go with it. If you want to say ignorant things, how about you at least try? I mean, try, to the smallest exception of the rule. Not be an idiot. You don't know what these school teachers endure. They endure your kid at its very worst. Hey, we always think that when our kids leave our sight for an extended period of time, that they're going to be great little people. But we know teachers don't get the great side of them. Teachers get what we get. Teachers are essentially extension of parents. So for all you teachers out there, thank you for doing our jobs when we're not there. When my child has been told no by a teacher, I'm not mad. When my child is having a dispute with a teacher, I'm not really mad because they're doing a job there that they've got policies to enact. They're parenting when I'm not there. They have to be disciplining these children. I want to thank every single teacher out there, even if I dislike some of the calls that you made. I'm going to have probably that same dispute with my husband down the road with my kids too. Because I think that that's what parenting is. It's a trying to figure out what the right route is. And teachers are in that same position as what we are. They're going to make good calls, they're going to make bad calls, and we're not going to like every single moment of it. But I want to thank every teacher while she sits there and shits on them. I want to thank every teacher out there that has taught my children, that engaged my children, that invested in my children. And I want to thank them for just fundamentally putting up with the last few years of the crappiest moment in teaching history. So, Holly Hughes, pipe down. No one wanted to hear that crap. Kidding me? You kidding me? Alrighty. So, there was something that happened with Tim Smith. Okay, here we go. It doesn't appear up here the way I want it to. This is the one. Outgoing, this comes from PR Guy. See, isn't PR Guy awesome? He just lays it out there and then you're like, I didn't know that happened. Thank you, PR Guy. You're always there for us. Outgoing Victoria Libs MP Tim Smith has warned 14-year-old journalists. We have a 14-year-old journalist, Leo Polizzi, to be very careful as he may be getting a letter in the post. Australian defamation laws have come under fire recently for stifling free speech and endangering debate. If you're trying to verbal me on my opinion regarding the substance of the Supreme Court's decision, you may be getting a letter in the post. Be very careful. Pretty weird for Tim Smith to threaten someone for quoting what Tim Smith actually said. Tim, I'm a 14-year-old journalist who's been reporting reaction from the Australian MPs to Wade versus Roe decision all day. I simply tweeted about yours too. I'm disgusted that you've made a blatant threat to me, asking me to withdraw my comment. Tweet that prompted the threat. Now, I'm going to have to zoom in on this because Tim on Roe versus Wade being overturned. Are you glad we live in a constitutional monarchy with a largely British constitution? Regarding the Supreme Court decision in the US, abortion is legal in every single Australian state and territory. This decision by the US will not change any precedent in Australia. Aren't you glad that we live in a constitutional monarchy with Australia largely British constitution? Now, the problem with this tweet is that it is inherently wrong. Yes, you heard it here. He's wrong. There is in many places around the country that you cannot access this. And for many states, it's still not properly legalized. It's something that he's never quite gotten the concept of. But it doesn't matter. He threatened a 14-year-old for whatever moment he thought he was some big kid playing on the field to threaten a 14-year-old journalist about whatever position he thought he had. What a repugnant little man. But he's not done. Not only did he threaten this kid, he thought it'd be smart to continue it with, hey, just wait for a letter to pop up in the mail. Now, I'm not this kid's parents, but I think we all should bloody be. I think we all should stand up for this kid and then go, you did what? To who? Why? So now a kid can't ask him a question. 100 to 1? If the Liberals wanted a vote off anyone, the next generation, this isn't how you do it, buddy. This is the generation that's going to look up to us for change. You idiots. You never deny a kid a simple explanation for your behavior. Because let me tell you this much. The kids deserve an explanation for the way we behave. Because we are accountable to the next generation. Because at some point, they're going to be taking over this nation. Because I know that this sounds crazy, but you're not going to be king of the hill forever. So if this was your, grand scheme of things to go, look, I'm going to tell a 14-year-old what I'm thinking. Don't do that. Don't try and staunch a 14-year-old. As if drunk driving wasn't bad enough for these idiots. They've got to go one step further and attack a 14-year-old that asks a simple question. And this isn't just one of those things that he just decides to do. No, check it out. To expect a letter in the mail because he asked a question on Wade versus Roe. These journalists these MPs need to pull themselves up and realise that our defamation laws are not what they should be. That's the bigger concern here. Oh, it's so gross. But he's not the only one that was this stupid. I don't know if I have that up. So Matt Canavan was just as stupid to make a stupid call. Huh. Really? Really? See, this is why we can't have nice things, because of Conservatives. So this tells you their plan. They're outwardly saying to you, yeah, no, we get power again and we're going to do this. We are absolutely fucking going to do it. You can't hand these idiots any power whatsoever. Because handing people like Matt Canavan even a toothbrush, he's going to abuse the living Christ out of it. Because this is just what they do now. Okay, so there's that. Now, I don't know how many people have seen this, but this is John Barilaro got this really, really bizarre position. And turns out it could be a really big problem because he might actually be he may have actually committed crimes that ICAC needs to look into. And Dominic Perrott gave him this plump job that looks like should not have done it. And Chris Minns, the opposition leader in New South Wales, says, hey, no, hold on. He's going to come home and you're going to have him on the first flight home if he wins. So, discuss getting Premier's approval for a Trade Commissioner's role as recently as November. By last August, plans for Trade Commissioner to represent New South Wales were advanced enough that have briefs that were prepared for senior state government ministers. Interviews that have been conducted, preferred candidate have been found. The head of the investment, Amy Brown, was presenting a brief to them, to then Deputy Premier John Barilaro in a recruitment effort. On August 2, Brown's executive assistant sent an email to senior staffer at a recruitment agency asking them to prioritise a report on the New York job. Amy advised that she would like to send America's report to the DPO, Deputy's Premier Office today, she wrote. Less than 2 hours later, the report had been sent back. Internal emails seen by The Guardian suggest that the briefing may have not occurred that day, but it was certainly a priority. We're hoping to get it up to the Deputy Prime Minister's office as soon as possible. Brown's assistant wrote 2 days later. That Barilaro was kept well abreast in hiring process is no surprise. As the state's Trade and Industries Minister, he had been driving force behind the establishment for 6 months commissioner job spread across the globe. And there was a reason for the close scrutiny of candidates. The lucky recipient of the New York job would receive an annual taxpayer-funded salary of $500,000 plus expenses. That's about $150,000 more than the Deputy Premier received. The preferred candidate was Jenny West. While investment in the New South Wales government insisted the highly credentialed former public servant and businesswoman did not receive any formal offer, The Guardian understands that it was hers. And then, little Bruz jumps in, doesn't he? Scoops it up for himself with no oversight whatsoever. But what amazes me is they get as much as what the Prime Minister does almost. That should be shocking to everyone, just how much money these idiots are on. And I think we'll keep reading it and then we'll have a look at it. But the afternoon announcement that Barilaro himself would be the state's new Trade Commissioner has caused a firestorm in Macquarie Street. Labor is calling for him to be stripped of the job. 2 separate inquiries are underway and into the government itself. MPs are furious that an ambitious pre-election budget has been overshadowed by the controversy. The timing of this is just terrible. One minister told them, I don't get and understand how the minister who was in the portfolio less than 10 months ago, is now the preferred candidate for the job. Many are asking the same question. Of course they are. A mystery change of direction. As an investment in New South Wales prepared, Barilaro was doing the same for other senior ministers. Documents obtained by The Guardian show that on August 6th, public servants finalised a brief for Dominic Perrott, the Treasurer at the time, now State Premier. The briefing pack, including a selection of the panel's final report of the New York candidate. The immediate suggestion that the ministers weren't happy with the preferred candidate. On August 23, Kylie Bell, a senior employee at the Investment of New South Wales, seemed confident that the agency was close to announcing the New York Commissioner. Now, the problem I still have with this is how much money does it cost for these roles? They're going to pay this person $500,000 a year, and $150,000 of an expense. That's as much as the Prime Minister makes. For some ambassador roles in New York, and Mr. John Barilaro, with no oversight whatsoever, scoops up this pretty little gig. Nah, and then given his role in whatever corrupt dealings that ICAC need to look into him with, there has to be something that the people say, enough, no more, you've done your dash. It's almost as if before they know that they're out of time, they do the most corrupt thing that you can possibly imagine. They go, no, fair game, we're landing it there. No, that's not how you do things. That's not even close to how you do things. Why are we doing things like that? Oh, I'm furious. Okay, she asked a colleague to get started on the media release shells for the New York position, as well as other roles in Mumbai and Singapore. I think we are close to being able to announce the MY, and others will be probably ready in September, she wrote. On August 30th, senior HR manager was discussing working on a contract for the job. We just can't focus on the MY contract today. What happened next remains shrouded in a mystery, but the week of The Guardian was able to piece together some of the puzzle. By September, the offer to West had been rescinded, and the second round of recruiting began. Investment in New South Wales Premier and Trade Minister Stuart Ayres this week said that the process was handed out by the outside recurring NGS. Global. But on Thursday, The Guardian revealed that the day before Barilaro announced he was quitting Parliament due to the personal toll of public life. Keep in mind, Mark Baird said the same thing. Gladys Berejiklian slinks away and did the same thing. So they have this amazing ability to go, no. For personal reasons, I'm just going to go away into obscurity. And then what do you know? Boom, pop. They get a $500,000 gig off the taxpayer. That's a little weird, don't you think, with all these inquiries about to pop up, and you just don't think that the LNP are this ballsy. Like, you would think, no, they're not going to do this, surely not. And then bam, they're like, no, we did it, and we're awesome. And I'm like, why? As if this wasn't going to make headlines that John Barilaro was going to New York after his whole issue with Jordan Shanks, and the fact that he sued Google recently and won like $700,000. Are you insane? This was going to come up. At what point was this not going to be an issue? Just wondering. At what point did John Barilaro think that he was just going to sneak off to New York and no one was going to go, hey, you know that guy's supposed to front ICAC at some point? Oh, and the fixated persons unit that he sent on Jordan Shanks, that is also going to have to come into scrutiny as well. It blows me away that they pull stunts like this. He always is so ballsy. I want to be. There is a part of me that's secretly envious of a Liberal person and the Nationals, because they got so many cojones to keep going. Like, they don't just stop at doing one stupid thing. It's almost as if they have these barrel of stupid things that they're going to do, and then they run through it, and then they go, I am victorious. And then people going, huh, you couldn't make this stuff up. You can't. It's funny, but at the same time also frightening. You're like, no, they wouldn't pull a stunt like that. And then here we are, people, they pulled the stunt. I don't know. It's quite extraordinary. The Trade Commissioner jobs, she wrote, would now be ministerial appointments, meaning the hiring process for outstanding jobs would be ceased, and M. Brown said that the New York job would be handled as an internal matter. See, that makes it even sound more sus. We're like, no. We're going to get rid of the independent body, and God damn it, why can't we appoint our own buddies? It looks sus. No, he can clean his statement up as much as he wants. In fact, Mr. John Barilaro, I invite you. No, I implore you to clean up this type of statement. I'm wondering why you were stupid enough to take a job like this, get yourself appointed to it, and then say absolutely nothing. Like, no, there's no scandal here. Like, just to be in the same room as someone this ballsy, you'd have to be going, oh, man, that's gutsy. You know, not gutsy in the way that he thinks, though. It's like, is this really worth your career? Like, in every possible role that you are not suited to? Can you prove on this many levels that you are not suitable for this role? I don't know why anyone needs that kind of money. You're going to get a free flight. You're going to go to New York. You're going to do all this stuff. I don't see why you're not paid in a reasonable way, considering apparently our budget is crap. So we're going to have to see how that one pans out. But I mean, Jesus. If you're not horrified, you're not paying attention. It's just this endless moment of, oh my God, they did it again. But I really, really want to thank everyone who was able to pop in here for even just a few minutes. I know that it's a long time to be able to sit down and focus and do what we do. I cannot thank you guys enough for engaging me and having the conversation, leaving comments, and along the way, just taking the time to watch what I do. Please leave plenty of comments. I love reading them, and then I go through and see how it all panned out for you guys. Tell me if I can improve something or fix anything you guys see in terms of stories through the week. So if you have a tip that you need to be sent for next week's episode, send me a link and I'll have a look at it. Okay, guys, thank you so much. See you next week.